How are you? It's such a beautiful time. My name is Seyi. Just welcoming people. Thank you for joining us on my show today. It's called Finding Purpose with Seyi. Finding Purpose and Pain with Seyi. How are you? We've got a beautiful guest with us today, and I'm really, really, really excited that we're here today. It's just been a beautiful time, Our last episode, the last time was beautiful, and today would be really great. I'm so excited. And with me today, I've got a special guest with me. Her name is Detola Amure. Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm really, really excited, to have you with me. Detola, we're really, really excited that we have you
Thank
with
you.
us today.
Thank
And
you so
I'm
much.
sure all our guests today at the end of this show would really appreciate the fact that you just need to find your purpose in your pain,
Mm.
because that's what life is all about, and that's what
Yeah,
we should do anyway.
yeah.
Just welcoming everybody joining us. I'm waving to people on Instagram. Welcome to the Instagram guest. Thank you. Welcome, Facebook people.
I'm
You're
trying to.
welcome. Like, share, do your watch party, let people know what we're doing, just spread the news and let people know what we are doing, because finding purpose in your pain is such a beautiful thing, that we need all to do. Going straight to data, I know you do a lot of things, and I
I
think
can't seem to find you
fantastic.
on Instagram. I can't find you on Instagram yet.
Okay, just bear with me.
Let me just check here.
Just trying to just get onto the Instagram guest and just get Detola on Instagram. Bear with me. Yeah.
It's not showing that you're live on Instagram. I'm not sure.
Okay. I'm live. I can see. I'm waving to people.
Oh, okay.
Bear with us, everybody. It's
Except I'm
technical.
looking at the wrong
Okay.
account.
So you should.
Is it?
Yeah. So the account is Seyi Oshewa-Oyedeji.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Have
I'm
you seen
on
it?
there now. Yeah, I've seen
Okay.
it, but it's showing
Okay.
me an old. I don't know why. Why is it showing me your old?
Can you see it? Hello, everybody. We're just
Oh
trying to
God.
just sort out the technical thing.
No. I'm not sure why.
Instagram
It's showing
people.
me your old
Okay, the
profile.
profile.
Yeah, the old one you
That's
did.
okay.
I have no idea
Okay,
why.
it's
Oh,
okay.
why can't I see it? I'm so sorry.
We might just need to move people on Instagram back on Facebook.
Facebook.
Sorry,
Then
sorry, Instagram people. It could be technical, as we can see, but
it's not even showing me that you're live. That's the interesting thing.
okay, because I can see I'm waving back to Fola Shade on Instagram.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I think we just have to make do with
That's what we have. Yeah.
Facebook now. Just everyone on Instagram, please could you just move on to Facebook? I don't want you to miss this, because you only see me talking without hearing what Detola is saying, and we really want everyone to be a part of this today. So I'll just leave it on,
Okay. I'll try.
just
Let
leave.
me try one more time. I've
Okay,
closed
that's
it.
fine.
I'm gonna open it again and see
Yeah.
what I can see.
Thank you, everybody joining us. I can see Emmanuel. I can see says hello, Seyi and Detola, a great recovery colleague. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Alex, for joining us. Thank you, Emmanuel, for joining us. We're just going to start up. We're trying to actually connect the people on Instagram, but technical. Anyway,
It's not showing.
that's
I don't know
okay.
why. Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. So welcome everybody again. We're just going to, move everyone on Instagram to Facebook. Just join us today. So I was just about starting with Detola now, and I said she does a lot of things that we know. She runs the Super Working Mom. She's a mother. She's an author. She's a businesswoman. She's a coach. She's a speaker. Wow! And I was like, oh. And when I was reading the profile, I was like, okay, that's wonderful. But I just wanted to find out, and I think we should start with that. To look at the fact as how do you juggle all this together? Because there's a concept that as a woman you can't have it all, So how do you tend to, is this concept true, or how do you tend to do it?
First of all, thank you again, Seyi, for inviting me onto your platform. I'm really excited to be
Mm,
here. And I'm so sorry. I don't know why I can't get on Instagram, but I will stay present and I'll stay in the moment. So I'm hoping that those on Instagram can come on Facebook. Yes. So
okay.
how do I juggle it all? I think for me, it's the way I see it is when you know your purpose, that's basically where your time, everything you
Mm,
do will be directed to your purpose. So because I know that I've been called to be a coach, I've been called to be a mom, a wife, um, and all
mm-hmm,
these other amazing things I do, I have been able to prioritize my time to focus on those things. So
mm,
obviously for me,
mm-hmm,
this means that there are some things that I'm having to say no to because I'm saying yes to
yeah.
purpose. I'm saying yes to what I've been called to do. So there are sacrifices I need to make, like waking up early, um, saying no to some things that I might want to do, but is not in line with my purpose. So I'm having to say no and saying yes to anything that is within my purpose. So that is the short answer. I
Well,
can go on and on, but that's the short answer. Yeah. Mm.
that's so beautiful because everybody that knows me knows that I like the word purpose. Because I just feel that with purpose, it just redefines who you are,
Yeah.
and in doing that, you find out that you won't mind not sleeping, not eating, not doing all that. Once you've found that purpose and not finding it, you might not be able to juggle things. And I think you've just confirmed that also, that
Yeah.
when you find purpose, you can juggle because they are all just important and you just need
Exactly.
to prioritize them based on the purpose at the time to be able
Yeah.
to do it. Thank you so
Mhm.
much,
Thank you.
Detola. Going straight, and I hope you're ready. I'm sure you're ready for us because a lot of people are looking, and we want to see, how you've harnessed, the purpose and the pain. And welcome to everyone that's joined us. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Alex. Also says, I love your focus on your purpose and the ability to say no. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So I'll just 2 days into Christmas 2018, your world changed, your world just, changed to something that you didn't expect. And would you be able to, explain what the experience is, what happened 2 days before Christmas, where everybody's excited and things like that?
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a beautiful day. We had gone to church. It was a Sunday. I remember clearly we had gone to church. And, what I remember about that day is that, so prior to that day, my son, Moraki or Caleb, wasn't feeling too well. We took him to the hospital. He had been a bit poorly a few weeks before. So we're taking him to the hospital, and the doctor was like, "Oh, he's fine. It's just a cold. If he's still feeling poorly, um, just run a steam bath, and that would open
Mm,
up his lungs and all of that." So a few days before that day, he wasn't feeling too great, and
mm,
I was in between. Should I take him to the hospital? Should I not? I've got three other children because I've got four children. In total, what should I do? So I was in between trying to decide what to do. But I was doing all this thing, but everything the doctor told us to do, we were doing it. So that morning, I remember trying to make a decision: should we go to the hospital or should we go to church? And I
mm.
said, you know what? I'll go to church.
Wow.
In church you can get healed, right? That was my belief and that was my thinking. So we went to church, and then we came back home. He took a nap, and I was making lunch, and I just heard in my spirit, go and check on Morakion now. And I was wondering, what that was about. So I went to check on him and found out that he wasn't breathing. And I think at that point I started going into shock. Like I was like, wait, he's not breathing.
Mm,
Thankfully, all of us were at home. My husband was at home. I told my daughter to get my husband. And as soon as he got out, he was like, because at that point, I was like, no,
mm.
I was telling myself, I think he's holding his breath. That's what
Ah,
that, because in my head, I'm like, it couldn't be anything else. But as soon as my husband came out, he said, call the ambulance now. So we tried to resuscitate him. The ambulance came in 8 minutes. They took him, at that point I was in complete panic. My neighbor downstairs came upstairs because obviously there were two ambulances that came. They rushed him off with my husband. And the police came almost immediately. And all this time in my mind, I'm like, no, my son is fine. He's going to wake up. I started praying. But anyway, to cut the long story short, the police took me to the hospital.
I
and
know it's
and I think they actually waited for me to get there before they pronounced him dead. And I didn't believe it. I was like, no, this isn't happening. No, this is not my baby. I could just see his helpless body there. And that was the beginning of a new journey and a new life for me.
Wow. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I couldn't. Yeah, it froze for a few seconds. I can hear you now.
Okay. If it feels wow. I know for people joining and watching us and seeing Detola say that, I kind of had like a chill all around me, because I know that for parents, that's the worst thing anybody would want to happen to you. And I actually saw how you paused, because I know that there's so much, and for everyone that has been through pain or grief, you found out that one of the sign that you're getting better, or you're getting, is the fact to be able to say it.
Yeah.
And and as she was saying it, I could actually feel, as a mother, holding your child, and you're believing that, oh, this child will come up, and nothing, and they're telling you, and they're giving you the certificate, and they're saying, oh, we're certified that, I can actually understand what that pain is. And I just want to, I know it's a difficult one, but I just want people watching, we know the experience and the emotion that goes with that, but what actually was going through your mind, at that point?
I just couldn't. The interesting thing is, even up till when they said he had died, I didn't. I said no. I'm like, no, this isn't happening. Somehow, I just felt like a miracle was going to happen, like God was going to raise him up, And so we called pastors, called friends, and everybody was praying. We prayed through the night, believing that he was going. I just had this belief that he was going to wake up. I couldn't accept that my son had died, and for a few days, I think my energy was so high because I just knew he was going to come back. I kept telling myself, they're going to call me and tell me, Madam, your son. I mean, thinking about it now, it sounds, very insane, but that was my belief, Obviously, my husband already accepted from day one that our son is gone. But I was like, no, God is going to raise him up, because I'm a Christian, for those who are watching. And I just believed that another miracle was going to happen. So I didn't process the fact that he died till a week later. That was when I actually came to terms with the fact that he's actually gone. And I think that was when my grief started, because a week before then, I was believing that he was going to wake up.
Thank you, Detola. Alex said, I cannot imagine how you must have felt then and now. Wow. And I know that's that experience, especially when when you got to the fact that for about a week you were believing that it was going to come back. People were praying, and a lot of us, I think a lot of us have gone through that period that you're believing against that. No, it's just a dream. I'll wake up from this. Oh, nothing is real here. And you're saying that, oh, come here. This is actually real. And I like what you said, that then that's when your grief started. When you know that this seems as if it's true, despite prayers and despite everything. Wow. Thank you, Detola. I'm welcoming everybody joining us. Thank you so much for everyone joining us. We just, Detola just told us a story and we just started. Thank you. I'm really appreciating everyone for joining our show today. And I'm welcoming you. And I was just going to go to the next question before we go into the deep of, the grief and all that. What was the impact of this on you and your family? Because you said you have four kids, apart from Caleb and Ale, then your husband. So what was the impact at that point?
Thankfully, we were, initially we didn't tell the other three at the time. I mean, well, the two,
To
because I
the
have a 10-year old, 6-year old, and then Caleb's twin, Grace Moradia. So we didn't even know how to break the news to them, but eventually we did. And it's so funny. Each one of us felt we were to blame. So I was blaming myself because I made the decision to go to church instead of hospital. My daughter, for some reason, thought it was her fault because she can't remember exactly what she said, but she was like, "Mom, it's my fault." So we all had to console each other and tell each other and convince each other that it wasn't anyone's fault, right?
wow.
So the impact is that it kind of brought us closer,
Mm,
right? Even though we were all dealing with grief in different ways. I think the person who was a bit vocal about his feelings was my 6-year old son. He just
mm,
didn't understand. He was like, "What do you mean Caleb is dead?" So, and we always had to answer his questions because he was always asking, "When is Caleb coming back?" But like, he's not coming back. He's so some people would say you have to use the right words. It was hard for me to use the word he's dead. I kept saying he's gone to heaven. And so he kept asking, "So what's in heaven? What's happening in heaven? Why has Caleb gone to heaven before all of us?" And it
mm,
was hard trying to explain that while you had your own questions, while you had your own questions. But and then when it came to the funeral, we had to make a decision. Should we take them or not take them? But we decided to bring them along so that it will be more real to them. And that way they would, especially my 6-year old will see his body being buried, you know.
mm,
But even with that, he still had questions like, "Okay, so mom, his body's down there. When are we going to get him back? We need to go wake him up." So it was that tension between trying to take care of yourself and trying to answer your children's questions. So the
mm,
impact was obviously it shook our world, but thankfully, because we're a family of faith, we held on to our faith. Um, and then we started talking a lot more about heaven. So I got a book called Heaven is Real for Kids by, I think, Randy Alcon, I think. So we started reading about heaven because they wanted to know this place
mm,
where their brother is now. And I think that kind of made them more, what's the word now, reassured them to know that their brother was, in a nice place. But now my 6-year old is like, "Mom, I want to go to heaven now." I'm like, Not yet." I'm not about I'm like, "Yeah, you will go to heaven, but not now."
not
Okay.
now.
And then he'll go back to, "But why did Caleb have to go before me?" And so it's that constant having to answer those type of questions. Yeah. So it's been an
Wow.
interesting journey. Yeah.
Yeah, wow, 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 wow. For everyone watching us, I'm sure you feel the same way I'm feeling over here. That must, those questions, it's easy for you to answer an adult, and give the right explanation. But for children, for them to understand, that part of grief, and Caleb was twin,
Yeah.
so yeah, so that makes it more difficult for you know. So for you to explain that grief to a child is also in a different way altogether, and
Yeah.
so I can't, somebody said here said, "Oh gosh," I think said, "Oh gosh," and that's the way we are
Mm,
feeling here even as we're here right now, and I can the impact to the family. I don't think I don't think any one of us watching can actually understand what impact is. But I kind of like what you said, because you said you're people of faith and it brought you closer,
yeah.
because in this journey you find out that grief and bereavement sometimes make the family go apart,
Yeah.
because everybody kind of deal with their differently. Some become vocal, some are they'll just go into their shell, and it's
Mhm.
just it's just it could be Bolanle is sending a love to you.
Oh, thank
Love.
you.
So a lot of people are sending you love. So the next question is, how did you encourage and comfort yourself, from going forward and your family? from that point?
Well, how did I encourage myself? Initially, I did not encourage myself because I was angry. I was very angry at God. Um, and I think I was angry because um, even though I knew God didn't take my son, like he didn't kill my son,
Mm,
and if I'm being graphic, I knew that he allowed it. And I think that was what I couldn't reconcile. That why would he allow it? Especially
mm,
because the birth, me getting pregnant with the twins wasn't planned. I wasn't,
mm,
I thought I was done with kids, with my first two. So it was a surprise when I found out I was pregnant with twins. So I was like, still getting used to the idea of being a mom of twins, now being a mom of four, getting used to
mm,
all of that. And then I suddenly felt like, he was snatched away from me. That was exactly how I felt, like he was taken away from me. And so, um, but even though I was angry at God, he was still the only one I could run to because there was no one else that could understand what I was going to. I would have conversations with him with anger, but the good thing is he's God, he can handle it, right? I would sometimes I'll be like, no, I'm not talking to you, God. But I could sense that he was there with me even through
mm,
all of that. So I think what one of the things I eventually did was I started reading because I started looking for answers almost immediately. Why did this happen? Why is this happening to me? For what purpose has this happened?
mm,
Or and how can I find relief? Because I felt this stabbing pain in my chest. It was so real, as in the pain was heavy, and I felt like something was cutting me into pieces. I felt like I was in a dark hole and I needed to come out of it. I'm a very action oriented person. So I was
mm,
looking for something action based that I could do. So I read a few books. Um, some of the books that I read from a spiritual angle helped. It gave me relief spiritually, but then emotionally, I was still in pain. So I kept on looking. Um, I did counseling, I did CBT, they didn't really help. And it was at that point, later on in my journey, was when I found the Grief Recovery Institute, which was what made the difference for me.
okay, that's it. That's so powerful and profound. Well, thank you everybody for joining us and just looking at people joining us. Thank you so much. And the questions are coming in. Remy says, I know we're going to be answering some of the question, but I just want to show this one because it says, Remy says, how would you advise those that are not in Christ? Because I know we are talking based on the fact that you're a person of faith, but those that are not in, don't know Christ and they're not in faith, what would you say, to them now?
To be honest, I don't think I would give any advice
Okay.
because it's very easy to give advice from your perspective,
That's
but
right.
everyone's journey is different. What I'll rather do is be there for them and listen to them. Because at that point, if as a believer I was angry at God, I can't imagine how an unbeliever or someone with who doesn't believe in God would would feel like. Because eventually, even though you don't believe in God, you still want to blame him, right?
Mhm.
It's so easy to blame God for everything. Even Christians, we want to lay blame at God's feet, but not everything that happens, not the bad things that happen in the world isn't God's fault. The world on its own is already in a chaotic place. There's so much evil in the world. We have free will and things happen, right? So we can't lay blame. I mean, I had to come to that understanding along my on my journey. So I won't necessarily advise anyone, whether a Christian or non-Christian, but I'll be there to listen. And I only learned this on my journey because I'm sure if you had asked me this before this happened to me, I would have a lot of answers and say, "Oh, I will tell I will say this or that or that." But now, no, I don't think I'm in a position to say anything to anyone about their pain or their grief because it's unique to them and it's individual to them. I'm not sure if that answers the question.
Wow, I feel like jumping here. Because the way, what you've said is
Mm,
a word of wisdom that a lot of people, if you have not gone through any form of grief,
yeah,
it's easy for you to just say, oh, you should do it like this, you should do
yeah,
it like that, that's the best way. But if you have
mhm,
gone through grief, you found out that, like you said, and that's why I said it's just a word of
yeah,
wisdom, that your journey is peculiar to you.
yeah,
How you are, even whether you are a person of faith, whether you believe in Christ or not,
yeah,
somebody's agreeing with me here. He says that's a fabulous answer, because sometimes people come around you and they want to give an answer or a solution to what
yeah,
you're going through when they have
yeah.
no clue of what you've been through, and that's such a very, very profound answer you've given us there. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm really grateful. You know, going to the next question, I said, what's your greatest fear during this period? What would you say was the greatest fear?
So I think I would say that my greatest fear was, and even though it wasn't a valid fear, I was afraid that my other twin would die because Morakian Caleb died in his sleep. So I would always go check on his twin, Moradio, and check, is she still breathing? Is she going to go as well? That was one of my greatest fear, that she would also die. Um, Even though somewhere at the back of my mind, I'm like, nah, that would be like too much of that would be too much. But I just found myself always checking to see if she was still alive, like, oh, is she gonna go as well? And the other thing I was afraid of was I was afraid that I wasn't going to come out of the darkness, because it felt like a I don't know how to describe the feeling I felt, but I felt like I was in a hole, a dark hole, and that I wouldn't come out. And I was afraid that I was going to be stuck there forever. Yeah.
Wow, 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 wow. That's so, because sometimes, because we can't communicate this fear, just like you said, when we are going through it, people are looking at you like, oh, Detola,
Yeah.
sorry, be strong and all that. But in you, as you will have experienced, man, there's so much going in there. And that's why I wanted to put that question in, that sometimes in the midst of everything, there are still some fears that come all over us in that dark place, and I can't imagine, it's showing and you're checking, and you're doing all that, and at the same time having to tell yourself, no, don't think of that and all that. So, wow, wow, wow. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Moving also to the question, the next one says, how were you able to shift your mindset from blaming God to accepting the reality?
Whew. I know, right? Wow. So with I was able to do that by, okay. So first of all, when my son passed, my faith in God shook. Like everything I knew about faith and God, suddenly I felt like I was on shaky ground,
Mhm.
and I felt like I had to restart learning what faith really meant, because like I told
Mhm.
you, I had faith that he was going to wake up and he didn't. I thought me and God were like, bestest of friends, because I was on this journey with God where he had been taking me through so many things. So I thought, oh yeah, I felt like I was coming on top, and then this happens. So I had to get to a point where, first of all, now how do I put this in words? I was having, even though I was angry at God, like I said, I was still communicating with Him. And for some time, I couldn't pray. I couldn't pray for a long time. I couldn't open my mouth to say anything. But I love writing, so I used to write a lot. I used to write my feelings. I used to write letters to God. So I did that, for a long time. And I think the day that I kind of got a breakthrough, if that's the right word to use, was there was a day I was crying and just asking God, why would this happen? Why would you do this? And it was, I don't know if to call it a vision or if to call it was like a picture played right
Mm.
in front of me. And the day, my son passed, I saw that day again. And it was as if while we're trying to resuscitate him, God was there, Jesus was there, the angels were there, crying with us. And it was a very, it was, when I saw that picture, at first I'm like, But God, you could, instead of crying, why didn't you just wake him up? Why are we crying? Let's not cry. Let's wake this boy up. That was my first reaction. But later on, that picture reminded me of Jesus on the cross. When Jesus was on the cross, he said, "Why have you forsaken me? My father, why have you forsaken me?" But I somehow got the revelation that God was there with Jesus. But because of the pain Jesus was in, he couldn't feel the Father. He couldn't sense the Father. But he had to go through that. There was a reason why he had to go through that, because he was meant to be the savior of the world. And so he had to go through that painful experience. So somehow I kind of got the understanding that not, and I'm trying to be careful with my words here. It's not that my son had to, there's something someone says, they said, God in his wisdom, right? There are so many things. God is powerful enough to do so many things, but in his wisdom, he doesn't do them because there's a greater purpose. There's something else. This life isn't, there's so many lessons. There's so many things that have helped me shift my mindset. But first, for knowing that this life is not just about me, there's something else greater going on.
Yeah.
There's a greater plan. And somehow, and again, like I said, I'm being careful because this is the understanding that I have, right?
Yeah.
Somehow, my son dying in the mix had to do with all of that. Maybe there's a different way that the greater purpose could have happened. I don't know. But there was something else going on beyond me. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. There was something else beyond me and the love I had for my son that was going on. And the other realization that came to me was God gave him to me as a gift. He belonged to God first before he belonged to me. I don't know if I don't know. I don't know if any of this is making sense. That's why I said but gradually my mind shift has been changing because God has been revealing things to me that I wouldn't have known if this hadn't happened.
Happened. Wow. 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 Well, I completely understand you, but it's just so,
Mm.
and everybody here also can actually agree because I can see people saying, wow. You can see the comments, and
Yeah.
that picture, that you just, when you said that picture, that was like, wow, and it just kind of gives a different, perspective when you think
Yeah.
about it. And I think God actually communicates with you in such a way that you would understand, when it brings it to you. Wow. Thank you, Detola, for sharing that because that's really deep. That's what I can say. I've got a question here from Babs, and it says, do you feel you needed an explanation for what happened, and have you felt you found it?
Who do I feel I needed an explanation? So there's someone that I follow a lot. His name is called Graham Cook, and he said the why question really gets answered on this side of eternity. The why question, but the question, what do I need to? What's the question that gets answered? The question around what do you need me to do with this? Asking God, what do I need to do with this? This pain, what do I need to do with this pain is the question that gets answered on this side. So even though till today I still ask why, I still don't know the answer. But what I know is I can find meaning from my pain. So that is what I am, that is the question that I'm answering now. Okay, Lord, what do you want me to do with this pain now? I don't know if that makes sense. So the why did he have to die? I still don't know. And I probably will
Yeah,
not know till I
that
get
makes
to
so
heaven,
much sense. So
you know. So, can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Oops. I think I've lost you there.
Amure,
Hello?
with
Can
yeah,
you?
I can hear you. I think the network here. Yeah. I said
Yeah.
that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense.
Mm.
Thank you everybody for joining us. I can see Fato, I can see Adedoyi, I can see Annabelle, I can see Catherine. She says, "I'm so proud of you, Detola. This is moving." You
Oh
know.
gosh,
I can
this
see.
is hard. This is really
This is,
hard.
I know. you know,
Oh,
and to everyone that's watching us, this is the first time Detola
yeah,
is coming, to do this, and
yeah.
we're talking yesterday, and she said, "Oh, I'm a little bit, I've got some nerves." And I said to her, I said, "I've got some nerves too, because I can
Mm,
imagine."
yeah,
Going, it's because it's like bringing up the pain all over
yeah.
again and trying to,
Mm,
so it's tough for everyone that either had one pain or the
yeah.
other. And I like what you said, the answer of what will I do with this pain is what we
Hmm.
answer here. And
Hmm.
there's Vivian here, and she's saying, I'm just going to show her question. She says, "I lost my
Oh
daughter
wow,
Annabella exactly 12 years ago today." Wow.
wow.
Vivian, wow, wow. I'm so excited, Vivian, you're here. We actually went to school together.
Mm,
Wow, my secondary school.
wow.
Wow, that's a long
Mm,
time. Wow. Wow, I
mm,
never knew that. He said, "I'm waking
mm,
up today. The pain is as fresh as
mm,
12 years ago." Wow.
mm.
Wow, 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 wow. And one thing I want to say for everyone that's lost somebody, or you have gone through one pain or the other, is the fact that, like Detola said, we're still searching for the meaning sometimes. We don't have the meaning, but the fact that you've shifted your mindset to a place that it's happened and I need to use this for something,
Mhm,
is what makes the difference, because sometimes we
mhm.
don't have the answer. Everybody's saying, we've got for Lakemi, we've got a lot of people. You're amazing. Sandra said, "You're amazing woman. You're
Oh,
yourself very well." So we are giving you all the love. Everybody send all
thank
the love
you,
to Detola and Vivian now. Thank you everybody for joining us. Bless you, Detola. Wow. Okay.
thank
Moving
you.
moving to the next question, Detola. This one is funny because this one I kind of, I have so much experience with that, and it says, were there things that people have said to you during your period that you wish they never said to you, you know?
Mhm.
And how did you handle it? And what would be your advice, to people, saying things when you go through pain?
Yeah. So first of all, before I say some of the things people have said to me, which um, I guess sometimes in people not knowing what to say, they just say, what they feel is right. What I tend to call, and this is something I also learned on my training as a grief recovery specialist. It sounds intellectually sound,
Hmm.
but emotionally useless. So things like, oh, at least be grateful you have three other children. And I'm like, really? What has my three other kids got to do with the one that has died? I
Wow.
have different relationships with them. So why are you bringing up my three other children in this matter? What, that this is not a case of being, it's like, obviously people say, be grateful, look for what to be grateful for. But in this circumstance, it's trying to compare other relationships that you have and saying be grateful you have three other children. Don't be sad you have three other children. Another one I heard a lot was, oh, be strong for your other children. You have to be strong now. And I think that's one thing in our culture. They're like, oh, you have to be strong now. But in your mind you're like, I don't want to be strong, I don't feel like being strong.
Right.
I think the one that really, really got to me was when someone said, oh, at least he was still a baby. You haven't invested so much in him. And I thought, what? You know? I mean, the person went on to say something like, oh, that, and comparing my loss to someone else is like, oh, I remember when my uncle lost his 15-year-old, he had done primary, secondary. And in my mind, I'm like, what has that got to do with me? Why are you minimizing my loss? Why are you minimizing my loss because he was a baby, because he was 7 months old? And I can't begin to imagine women who have gone through miscarriages. Now I'm tearing up, and people discount your pain because you didn't meet your baby. I said I wasn't going to cry. Now you're making me cry on
We
on life
completely
life
understand. We complain. I'm sure everybody online would understand where we all are now, and that's,
Oh.
wow, wow.
So, people trying to minimize your pain because they think it will make you feel better, so things like be strong. And then the other one that I didn't like a lot was, if you need me, call me. I'm not going to call you, you know. But I'm grateful that there were lots of people who just rose up to the occasion, people who brought us food because I couldn't even think about cooking, people who just took it upon themselves to shop, to do grocery shopping for us. Those people, wow, I can never forget them in my life. But when people say, call me if you need me, I don't even know what I need right now.
That's
So
it.
I'm not going to call you. No, because I don't even know what I need. But I'm grateful for those who rose up to the occasion, um, and just did stuff for us. Got I remember the group of women that I work with, the Super Working Mom Academy. They organized, because then I didn't have a nanny. They got a nanny for me. Practical help. So those are the kind of things that I think people should do, instead of telling someone who's grieving, call me when you need me. They are in so much pain, they don't know what they need. Do what you can. If you can, if it means making just a meal for them, make a meal for them. I remember the morning we got back, because we were in the hospital the whole night. By the following morning, one of the members of our church, and I'll never forget, that morning, we had just gotten home. No, I think it was in the afternoon. I can't remember now. In the afternoon, he just brought like lots of food to the house. And I was so shocked. I'm like, oh my God, like, where did all this food come from? And, I even had to buy an extra freezer to stop all the food that came coming. Because at that point, I couldn't think about cooking. I couldn't think about anything. I was just in so much pain. So I think if you don't know what to say, it's better to just say, I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say right now, or say I'm sorry, but don't give all of these intellectual answers. And again, I wouldn't have known this because I know I probably have said this to someone else who was
Mm,
grieving. So that's why I'm trying to be gracious as well, trying to be gracious, because people, they're not saying it out of spite, they're not saying it out of malice. But I know that if we educate people, we can do better when it comes to saying the helpful things to people that are grieving. Yeah.
wow, wow, wow. That is so that is so profound. One of the ones that I don't like is when they say, move on, get on with it.
Ah.
you know, and they're saying, get on with it. And you're like, get on with what? I don't even know
Yeah.
where you are now. And you're telling the person, get on with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, and I think doing this is so helpful to a lot of people, because I think you're right, because sometimes people really, honestly, do not know what to say,
Yeah. Yeah.
do not know what to say. And it's okay for you not to know what to say. But one of the things that I know have worked with me and with other people is what you've said, is that practical love.
Yeah.
Sometimes it might just be holding the person's hand.
Yeah.
Sometimes it might just be hugging the person.
Mm.
Sometimes it might just be, just like you said, practical things, helping them with childcare, giving them
Yeah.
time so that they can be on their own.
Yeah.
Whatever, if you don't know what to say, or like I used to say, then you can pray, and
Mhm.
please don't say we are praying for you and you're not.
You're not free.
Because I've seen that a lot, when people say I'm praying for you and the next thing you're
Mm.
just watching Netflix and all that. If you say to someone that is grieving or something, that
Mm.
or that's going through something, that you are going to pray for them or are praying along with you, please do that. Because you never know what you're praying, because they can't vocalize all they're going through, but your prayers could help. Thank you,
Mhm.
everybody, for joining us today. Please like, please share. Everybody's sending all their love.
Oh,
You
thank
know,
you. I can't see the chat on Facebook,
you can't,
so
oh, you can't.
yeah, I'm not able to see it here.
Adeton says so helpful. Adeton said she lost the baby. We're so sorry about
Oh,
that, but we
wow.
know that
So sorry.
in this journey that we are in, and in this, we would all together as a family find purpose in all our pain.
Yeah.
Uh, I didn't even say perhaps I can forgive some people now. I know. We all have to be gracious, because they've
Mm.
never said that. They don't know what to say
Yeah.
honestly. They don't mean
Exactly.
it.
Yeah.
And Olakemi says move on. Oh, some
Mm.
people say that.
Mhm.
And just do that. Moving on. Thank you, everybody. It says the next one. It says, what were the different stages of your grief? Would you be able to explain? The different stages. You can take water, Detola. Just because we all know what this is real. This is
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
finding purpose in pain with
Yeah.
Shay is all
I
about. We
completely
don't
forgot I had my water.
exactly. We don't pretend. We don't cover things. We are real. And that's why we
Yeah.
bring real people, real experiences, where we can make people can learn from this show. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Detola. Yeah.
Thank you. Right. So different stages of grief. Now, this is an interesting one because guess what? There are no stages to grieve. Now, so the concept, and you probably know this, the concept of stages of grief came when a lady called Elizabeth Kubler-Ross wrote her first book in, I think, 1969, on death and dying. And she identified 5 stages called denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So she identified those stages for someone who is dying. And then later on, she wrote another book um, on grief and grieving with David Kessler, and they kind of touched on that. But ever since then, a lot of people have misunderstood those stages, thinking that it's for the bereaved rather than someone who's dying. And even from my own experience, because if you say stages of grief, it means you're saying first you move from denial, so it's kind of like logical. You move from denial to the next stage until you now get to acceptance. But for anyone who's grieved, you would know that there are different emotions running through you on different days. So those stages are not prescriptive. They're just, descriptive for you to kind of maybe understand where you are, but not
Mhm.
that you are moving from one stage to the other. And so this has been a disservice to grievers because it makes it look like, oh, what stage are you in? Oh, have you moved from, denial to anger? Oh, have you moved from, no, there are so
Mhm.
many emotions that you can feel in any given day,
Mhm.
you know? And again, why do the grief doesn't have any stages? Because grief is unique to every individual. My loss would always be my greatest loss. Your loss will always be your greatest loss. And if you think so, if for example you take two people who have lost a mother, the relationship they both had with their mothers will be different. And so it means their grief will be different as well. So yes, even though I experienced anger, experienced depression, I experienced some form of denial because I didn't want to believe that my son had died. I didn't go through the stages.
Mhm.
Some days um, uh, uh, I had different emotions on different days. What tends to be the common theme is sometimes there are common responses to grief, like um, your sleeping pattern changes, your eating pattern changes, your concentration level drops. You have energy today, you are on a high, tomorrow you are crashing. So there are like common responses, but when it comes to stages, there are no stages of grief because grief is unique
So
to
you,
to each individual. Yeah.
wow, that's beautiful.
And
I'm
I
just going
learned a
to.
lot of that, until I obviously in practice I knew that there wasn't any stage, but when I went for counseling, she always tried to ask, so which stage? And I don't know what stage I'm in, but it was when I did my grief recovery training, that was when it became clearer that, oh, okay, so there are actually no stages to grieve. Yeah.
Wow, that's really profound. I'm just going to show. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Please like, please love, and share. It says sometimes all stages on the same day or at different phases depending on some triggers. I really agree. Yeah, I really, really agree to that. Yeah. I'm just looking at the questions here. It says different relationship with the same person is a great thing to highlight unique grief. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's also another one. Then I'm showing, please send in your questions. So true, what they're doing. Grief is unique to each individual. I really, really, really like that. But I was going to, I was going to say something. Just going to hide this comment. I did do it. We have another one. He says,
And
I
yeah,
agree. I agree totally with your explanation about not being any stages of grief. Yeah, if I can read it right. But one question, and I've seen that. I don't know whether you have that. When people talk to you, by virtue of what we do, because we have a charity to widows and single parents and widowers, by virtue of meeting people, you find you can actually, I don't know whether that's a right word to actually point that this person is still hurting in that grief. I don't know whether there's anything like that, and you want to help them embrace.
yeah,
I know you said there's no stages, and I know some going through denial. Some, when they speak to you, you would be able to know. So how do you tend to, because there are people watching us, how do you tend to help people when they come to you, and you can actually, because it's like you can spot it all immediately that there's
mm,
still a lot of work to be done here. So what
yeah,
would be your advice to people like that, and how would you? Yeah.
yeah. So first of all, like I said before, I will listen to them and let them talk, because one thing that grievers, one of the myths of grief is that you need to grieve alone. So a lot of grievers are isolated in their pain. They can't verbalize their pain because of the fear of being judged or being criticized, or they might even be having conflicting feelings
Mm.
within themselves. I know, and grieving isn't just death, it could be a divorce, it could be loss of, I mean, we're all grieving now in this COVID-19 thing. But when it comes to the pain, and like I said, for me, for a long time, on the spiritual side of things, oh, are you
Yeah,
still
we're
there?
back.
Can you hear
We're
me?
back.
Okay.
We're back.
So, I'm not sure if you heard anything I said.
No, I did. I think at the beginning, you just go back a little bit. I think, yeah,
Okay.
just a
Okay.
little bit.
Yes. So, what I was saying was that first of all, listen to them, because grievers need to be heard, without the fear of being criticized or judged or analyzed. Um, they need to be heard. So that's the first thing, hearing them. And then obviously, if there's still that pain, because it, I mean, to the glory of God, like I said, my son passed away in 2018, but I'm no longer in pain. I am sad. I still cry sometimes, but that stabbing pain, I no longer feel it. And I believe it's because of the hard work and the action steps that I took when I did the grief recovery method. And so there are some actions you need to take to complete the relationship you have with pain and isolation and all of those unmet communication that you're not able to, that were unmet as a result of your loss. So that is one thing I always say to people. I work with people on to help them recover from their pain, from their grief, and complete. We call it. We don't use the word. What's that word everybody uses? I keep forgetting that word. It starts with a C. When they say you are, oh, it keeps skipping my mind. But I don't know if you know the word where everybody's trying to closure, when everybody's looking
Oh,
for closure.
closure. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't use the word closure. We use the word
No.
complete. You need to come,
Mm.
you need to come into completion with the pain that you are feeling. But there are some action steps that you need to take. And that's what we do with the grief recovery method. That was what helped me, sincerely helped me. That was what changed things for me. Because like I said before, on the spiritual side of things, I was fine, but the pain was still there. So for
Mm.
someone like that, I would hear them out and invite them to work with me so that they can also complete with their grief.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And it's so important because you know yourself. I like the bit that you said you can only grieve alone, and understand, what you're feeling and put, your feeling into words. Because until when you discover what you're feeling per time, you should be able to name them. Oh, I'm feeling angry at this time. I'm feeling denial. Because until when you know that, you might, I had a session with a lady yesterday. She lost her husband, and she was like, my fear is I'm not sure whether there will be a time that I will ever forget him.
Hmm.
And I said,
You're not meant to.
even if you're not meant to, And she said, everybody keeps saying, go ahead with it, but I'm scared because, I'm thinking, should there be a part in my life where I would just totally forget? I said,
Mhm.
no, that person has been a part of your life, especially where your experience is beautiful. You can't
Yeah.
cut that part of your life off. Your
Yeah.
memory, your conscious or subconscious, everything still has it. But you should be able to know and identify what you're feeling, at that time. And I like that word. There's nothing like closure. A lot
Mm.
of people make that I was just want to close. No, if you close it, you might go into depression. Don't
Yeah.
close it. It's stages. Just. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm sure we are all having a lovely time with Detola. I'm so excited. As you can see me, I'm always excited with any of my guests because it's a lot of, bringing up with, talking and just, finding your purpose in your pain. Thank you so much for Laket. Thank you, Katrina. It's a long one. I will read and get back to you. Please love, please share. And I know a lot of people there, you've been hearing us talking about the grief, method and all that. We're still going to go into it. But if you need any help, you have my social handle and we'll show you in the right direction what you need to do. Hello, Abigail. Thank you for joining us. When we were talking, you said something. You said counseling at a point did not really work for you, and you decided to go through the grief recovery route. And I know a lot of people here will be wondering, oh, what's the difference? What's the difference? What's the
Yeah.
difference? And why did that work with, would you want to explain what the difference is and, from your own perspective?
Perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, counseling is good, and it's probably usually the first stage when it comes to dealing with grief for some people. And that was the route I knew, counseling. I was like, I need counseling. But in my experience, what I discovered was that each time I go for counseling, I would talk and talk and talk and talk. Then I ask my counselor, so give me tools, because like I said, I'm an
Mm,
action based person. Give me tools. And she'll go, there are no tools. And so I will talk for an hour. And the analogy I always use is it was as if I would unbear my heart, pour out my heart, and then 1 hour's time she'll go, oh, time up. And then I'll pack up my pain again, log it on my shoulders, go back home, angrier than I got there, because I've basically like spilled out everything that I'm feeling. And she'll say her job is to listen. And so they're probably, and I also tried CBT, which helped a little bit because it had tools, it had
tools.
practical tools. But with counseling, I just felt like I was going there to talk a lot. And I like to also use another analogy. It's like having a garden with weeds. It's overgrowing with weeds, right? The experience I had with counseling was we were just talking about the weeds. So we'll talk about the weeds. Oh, these weeds are growing. They're growing on that side. Oh, yeah, I can see that. Then they're growing on that side. And I felt like all we did was talk about the weeds. But I wanted to pull them out because they were damaging my garden, the garden of my heart. But what grief recovery method did for me was to show me the tools to actually pull out the weeds that were choking the garden, choking
Mm-hmm.
my garden, pull out those weeds and make my garden look beautiful again. So for me, that was my main difference. Counseling, we talked about the weeds. Talking about the weeds is good. Even support groups is good. But for me, again, in my experience, I don't know about other people. I found that when I tried to go for support groups as well, I always left angry. Angry because I would hear about other people's journey and I'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe. So here am I trying to deal with my own pain, and then I hear this other person's story and it's so painful and I feel so bad for them, and I go, oh, mine isn't, and then I start to compare losses again. So that I was like, I don't think support groups
That
are for
was,
me, because I was basically just comparing and feeling bad for them and then feeling bad for myself. I needed something that was action based, and that was what grief recovery method did for me. It changed my life, and so it showed me the tools, and those are the tools that I also show others now in the grief recovery method.
mm, wow, wow. Thank you so much, Detola. Alex says, I'm just going to show taking action to complete with the pain of grief and loss. There is no need to forget someone nor a
Yeah.
situation. It's just a strong message to help support others. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. We have another message here from Joey. She says, "Can someone ever stop being depressed after going through a loss?"
I believe so.
I
I
believe so.
strongly believe so because I know
Yeah.
that I started feeling, like I said, I don't know when Adedoyin joined, but when my son died, I felt like I was in this dark hole and I felt
Mm,
like I was sinking every single day. Like I wasn't, I felt like I was getting closer to the ground, a ground that was just open and I was going down and down and down. And so I felt like I was going down and I was far from the top and I thought I would never be able to come out. And I was so scared. I'm like, oh my God, is this going to be my life?
mm,
I tried to distract myself with work. You mentioned that, I run my own business, but last year I couldn't do anything in my business
mm,
because I just felt like my creativity died. And so
mm,
I took a part-time job that I knew that, it was just all I needed to do was type on the computer. I wasn't engaging my
mhm,
creativity. But even with that, I found out that maybe for a month I'll be fine, then I'll crash. I'll go to my GP. My GP will sign me off for 2 weeks. I'll be in bed crying. Then I'll feel better. I'll go back to work, do that again, crash again. So I was like a yo-yo, and I was
Burnout.
like, how long am I going to keep doing this? I can't, is this going to be my life forever?
Mm,
And that's when I started looking for help.
mm,
And honestly, there was a huge difference. I've never experienced that before. In terms
mm.
of, like I said, I tried counseling, I tried CBT. They helped in a way, but the pain was still there. The crashing feeling was always there. But thankfully, I've been able to complete the unresolved grief that I have. I still miss my son dearly. I still cry
Mhm,
when I think about him. But then when I think of him, I'm able to think of the fond memories without um, feeling sad. And even when I think of the day when he died, I'm able to go through that day and not crash. I don't know if that makes
alright.
sense. So
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
answer that question,
To
yes, I
answer that,
think
yeah.
that you can.
And I'll just quickly add to that also, Detola. I feel, and this speaking from, like we said, everybody will speak from your own experience.
Your
From my own
experience.
experience, I posted something today, and it's so funny, and I said that I said, just don't forget it. People won't tell you that they're tired of you, of the yo-yo life. They won't tell you,
No.
they won't tell you, the fact, oh, she's coming, here comes the sad one, here comes, people will not tell you. So the onus and the responsibility is on
Yes,
you,
exactly.
and I like what you said, that you actually actively searched for how you would get help. And that's why I tell people that I also work with, I might not give you the answer, but even if I do give you the answers, the responsibility, and the stages, and please don't beat yourself up and say, oh, Detola did it in a
Yeah,
year, Seyi
yeah,
did it in that year. No, don't beat yourself.
yeah,
Everybody has their own, have their
exactly.
own, whatever their method is. But the onus of searching of your healing, and that's what's finding purpose in pain. Once the first thing I know is that when you understand, when you get to that point that whatever has happened to you is for a purpose, there's something that comes in your mind. And I like
Yeah.
the illustration of the garden.
Mm,
Once there's an understanding that, oh, this pain is supposed to beautify my garden.
mm,
You're now seeing those seed that you need to plant to make that garden,
mm,
else
yeah.
your garden is going to be filled up with weeds.
Wait. Yeah.
And people will just, on the other side, they'll be looking, oh, when she go and get the hoover, when she go and
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
something to
Can get
cut
the,
it,
yeah. Yeah.
and that's what we are doing. So if there's anyone here that, you're watching us, thank you everybody for watching us. If you're here, and you want to talk to somebody, you need help, please just, DM us, send us a message. We would, find out to speak to you and get you help, in whatever ways. I've got a question for you here, and she says, I'm just quickly going to take it. Yeah. What are some of the tools you use to encourage someone?
Okay. So some of the immediate tools, because with the grief recovery method, there's a lot of hard work that needs to be done. But then in the immediate, while you're still, waiting to do that kind of deep inner work, acknowledge your feelings. Don't hide your feelings. Be emotionally honest with yourself. If you're feeling sad, label it. Say, try and pinpoint what is this thing that I'm feeling. If you're feeling sad, feel that sadness. I think what we try to do is when we sense that we're feeling sad or we're feeling anxious, we try to brush it off. We try to hide it behind shopping, behind work, behind watching a movie, just to dull down the pain. But the more we keep doing that, the more our grief accumulates. The more we're pressing it down, the more it stays there, and then more we pile up more. But anytime whatever it is you're feeling, own it. If you're feeling happy, tell yourself, I'm feeling happy. If you're feeling sad, tell yourself you're feeling sad, and let it. The earlier you accept that that's how you're feeling, in my experience, you find that it's like a wave.
That's it.
It kind of just disappears as
Yes, yeah.
you allow yourself to feel it. So be
Yeah.
emotionally honest with yourself, and also find people who would hear you without any judgment. It's hard because, like you said, you're like, oh, she's back again. All she wants to do is talk about her son that died. But that grievers, because they've not been heard, that's why they keep saying the same thing over and over again.
That's
But
it.
when they've been heard and they've been acknowledged, and you say, yes, I hear you, without questions, without judgments, then that also helps as well.
Wow,
Okay.
wow, 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 wow. That's really good. So don't bet, just to add to, don't bottle up your emotion. I like to tell people it's okay to cry. I can't tell
Oh, yeah.
one of the
Yeah.
lessons, I was telling the Taylor when we're comparing notes, one of the things that, I said that I should have done less in my own journey of loss was cry. That because I cried so much, at the point, like, oh, my eyes, but it's okay for you to cry. It's okay for you to feel that today I don't feel like doing anything. Today I don't
Yeah.
feel like, and just because we're people of faith also, another thing that I would say that will help is begin to pray and look for people, pray for them to come into your life, people that you need at your own season. I had people, and I'm sure Detola, she's mentioned people that brought food, people that go, they are yours. I don't know how to put it. You just know that they are there for that season,
Yes.
for a particular
Yes.
thing. Some of them will be there to help you with your child, your children. Some of them will be there to help you with your emotional state.
Yeah.
God will just put them there. So begin to, if you have not started doing that, begin to ask, that God should send those kind of friends, people, mentor, and all that while you're seeking,
Yeah. And
on your
then
journey.
journaling helps as well.
Fantastic, yeah.
Journaling, if you
Journaling,
like to
yeah.
write, journal your emotions and document your story now, because a time will come where once you've done the inner work, because that pain is no longer there, you might not, like, you forget, but you might not, the intensity might not be as it used to be. So it's good to document your journey as well. Write down, even if it's one line. Some days I'll just write help. Some days I'll write, just, if you love to write, write, journal
Journal.
what you're feeling. If you're a person
Wow.
of faith as well, you can play. I used to play a lot of worship music because, like I said, I couldn't speak, I couldn't open my mouth to pray, but I would put up music, and that would just,
Yeah.
I'll allow that to play into the atmosphere. Yeah.
That's so good, and thank you, Doing, for thank you, Detola, for saying that, because and that led me to my book, the book I wrote, Unashamed, which is the journey of a young widow, and at the point, it's able to help you pour out your heart without feeling. And at that point, that yes, I've let it out.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
all, and so it does help to journal. Thank you so much, Detola. Sandra said, I'm just going to do this. This is so profound. Thank you. My
Oh.
friend lost her husband, and you have been so helpful. I
Mm.
see not to try and
Yeah.
fix her. Yes, yes, that's so
Grievers
important.
don't need to be
They
fixed.
don't
They
need
don't
to
need
be
to be
fixed.
fixed. No, they
Yeah,
don't. They just need to
yeah.
be heard. Yeah.
Wow, 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 wow. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I really appreciate you. This means so much to me, for everybody that knows me, finding your purpose in your pain, And if you're out there, you have a story, that you want to share, please, contact us. Thank you so much. I've got another question also. Thank you. quick question. How did your husband get along in all this? Men seem to take things slightly different. Fantastic, yeah.
Yeah,
Go.
yeah, that's a good question. Ooh, thankfully, my husband is very supportive, and one of the things he did was because, like I said, when it happened, I was blaming myself, like we should have taken him to the hospital, and he just kept on saying, "It's not your fault. It's not anybody's fault," you know.
Mm,
And I'm glad that he, what's the word? He validated that for me because for a long time I blamed myself. Like if I had taken him to the hospital, if I had insisted, maybe he won't have died. Maybe you know, I kept on saying that, but you know, he helps me that. And like you said, men, you know, I do deal with grief differently. I'm on the call, my dear. No internet. Okay, I'm coming. Mommy's on the call now, okay? No internet. Go and ask your dad. I don't know where he is. Check, he's somewhere in this house. We're on lockdown. He has to be somewhere
we
in
are
this
all on
house.
lockdown. So
I know, right?
we're all on lockdown. So anybody, it's
Oh
fine.
my god. It's like I don't know where he is. He's in this house somewhere. Anyway,
Somewhere.
yes. Yeah, so for him, I think he's still he's on a different journey from me. Like I said, I'm more of a I need to find help now, but he's
Mhm.
taking it more. He seems like he's in the background, just taking it easy. But like for me, I mean, there's the statistics that say that I can't remember what the numbers are, but a large percentage of marriages disintegrates after the loss of a child, and it's usually because of the judgments on the
Mhm.
way each other is grieving. That because I don't think it's necessarily the fact that oh because the child died that's why they've divorced. It's because
Mm.
they are judgmental of how each person is grieving. But for us,
Yeah.
we've kind of respected. So you know, I respect how he's grieving. I don't expect because I tried to get him to go to counseling with me. He's like, nah, I'm not. I'm not
No,
going with you. You
no,
know.
I'm
So
not for men.
and yeah, I didn't kind of like say no, you must go, giving him the
Mm.
space to grieve in his own way, and he's giving me the the space to grieve in my own way as well. So I think
Yeah.
he's on a different journey from me, definitely. Yeah, but we've
Yeah.
respected the way we which other grieve. But I'm also glad that we talk about our son. In fact, my there's no way we cannot talk about my son because when we're praying
Mm.
we call everybody's name, and if you forget to call Caleb's name, my 6-year-old will quickly remind you, Mom, we've not prayed for Caleb. In my head, I'm like, yeah, but Caleb is in heaven. He doesn't need prayers, but we still pray for Caleb. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's well integrated. Caleb is still a very much part of our family. Yeah.
Family, yeah. And I think for men, because they are also closed, isn't it? And our environment has also given that notion that they have to be strong. So
Yeah.
they find it difficult to break down like a lot of women, and all that. But that doesn't remove the aspect of grief, in
Yeah.
them. And that's
Yeah.
why with inspiring young widows, widowers, and single parents, the forum for men, where you handle men, where men can have an environment to express what they are going through in their own language,
Yeah.
because sometimes
Yeah.
we women try to get the language from them, and when they're
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
speaking, they're not speaking our language, they're
Yeah.
speaking the men's
Yeah.
language.
Yeah.
So in dealing with grief as a man, and they saw, they just kind of, put on the Superman kind of, no, but that's not it. When you get into one-to-one and you're talking one-to-one, you find out that they need to let it go out. And so when in this journey, with the men and all that, it's so important that we work with them, if you know them,
Yeah.
with people that understand speaking to men when it comes to grief, not women. Women, we're expressive, we cry, we
Yeah.
do all that. But for the man, they can blame themselves, they can do a lot of things, and in their own, they want to be understood in their own way. So that's important, you
Yeah.
know. Thank you, Anna. She says, just putting that in. It has really improved my knowledge of grief. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
Mm.
I'm just going on. And for anyone that want to reach out to me, my social handle is long-winded, and that's why I had to type it. Is Seyi Oshewa-Oyedeji. And we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. So just send us a message. If you want to, because it's important that we reach our world. And reach more people out there that we can help. help them in their journey of grief, in their journey, we need to help each other. We're a community, to help each other. Then my other question is, what advice would you give? I know you said a lot of advice. I'll put this maybe one or two. What advice would you give to someone who has gone through or is currently going through grief at the moment?
Okay.
I know you said it earlier.
So again, I think what I would just say generally is, first of all, if for some reason you think it's your fault that either the relationship disintegrated or this person died, you know, to be gracious to yourself and know that we don't have, I mean, except someone literally kills someone else, we don't have that power.
Mm-hmm.
I read it somewhere that, and that kind of set me free, because I know there's this movement of your thoughts are powerful, but I don't think your thoughts are powerful enough to kill someone else. I don't know if that makes sense. So it's not your fault. Be gracious to yourself, and yes, you're going through this. It's painful. Find meaning in your life now. Don't try and find meaning in the person in the tragedy. Don't try and find meaning in the fact that that person died, because you will not find meaning there. But you find meaning in your own life going forward. Try and find meaning going forward. Seek help. There's a myth that says that time heals all wounds. No, time does not heal wounds. Time does nothing if you do not do anything. All time will do is pass.
That's it.
So find help to do grief work, to do heart work, to help you come to terms with your grief, to complete with your grief. So seek help. Seek help. We already have Seyi here. Please reach out to her. I'm also a grief recovery specialist as well, So reach out, ask for help. Yeah, what else? What else am I gonna say? Just, and then like I said before, acknowledge how you're feeling, but ultimately try and find help, because if you don't do anything with your grief, it does is accumulate, and it will accumulate negatively. And you don't want to, 12 years down the line, 20 years down the line, you're still in so much pain. There's meaning, there is life after a heartbreak. And I
Mm.
pray that you find that life. Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. I'm so excited with that answer. That's really, really good. And just to add to that, it's so important you find yourself, out of that journey. Because if you
Yeah.
don't, like I say, you are not a blessing to your family. You are not a
Yeah.
blessing to people around you. You are not, it's just, I don't know how to put it. You're like a moving danger, because you kind of blame everybody. Any little thing you
Yeah.
snap, and they are not to blame to it. So you're finding purpose in it makes you a better person, because one of the things that comes with grief is losing that person called you.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah.
That happened to me. I was like, no, at the point, I was like, no, this is not me. This is not me. I
Mm,
used to be that person that wants to do
yeah.
this. I used to be that. But
Yeah.
at this stage of my life, I just even didn't feel like doing anything.
Mm,
So being you and finding help of that you brings the best out of you. You become
yeah.
a better person to the people around you. You become a better person to your family. You become a better person to fulfill purpose. So it's so important that whether you have gone through it, you need to reassess your life. Oh, have I walked through my journey? Where am I now?
Yeah.
And if you are there currently going through it, there's help for you. You just need to ask the right question and seek, because all of it, there's so much help out there.
Mhm.
How people can help you. If you need to talk to somebody, if you need help, there's so much help. And don't do this alone, please. Don't try to do this alone.
Yeah.
Hold somebody's hand, and people will help you. Thank you, Desola. I'm sure there's still more questions coming. Thank you so much for everyone that
Thank
has
you.
joined us today. I'm really, really excited. We are all finding purpose is all about finding purpose in your pain is all about finding purpose in the pain. It doesn't have to be a loss. It could be a separation. The
Yeah.
last one that we had Steve, that had 5 children and 4 of them were autistic. Any form of pain, there's purpose in it. It might be difficult for you to understand it now, but if you look really deep in it, there's always a purpose in your pain. I say that all the time. My name is Seyi. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a coach, I'm a transformational coach. I help people. It's my passion to help people. I think it's my weakness to help people. So you're free to reach out to us. There's help there. We have a charity, that deals with widows, and single parents. We are there to help. And if you're there also, you need help, you want to join us, please, reach out to us. I'm just quickly going to just show Alex one before we round up. I can so recognize the sadness of losing you. Don't try to do it alone. Find purpose.
Yeah.
Wow. Alex, I like that. I think I'll use that as a tagline. That's so beautiful,
Yeah.
because when you find you, it's unbelievable what you can
Yeah.
do. It's unbelievable what you can transform into. Sometimes when I look back at myself, I say, oh, okay. So all what I've gone through now is coming up because,
Yeah.
I was able to, find the purpose in that
Yeah.
pain. Even though during when I was going through it, it wasn't easy,
Sure.
but you birth something beautiful once
Mm.
once you have it and once you go through the process we've talked about. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank
Everybody
you.
send your love to Detola for joining us today. Thank you so much.
Thank
We are
you.
so happy. Detola is running a challenge now. It's called Slay Down. Do you want to tell us quickly before we? Yeah, yeah.
Oh
And
gosh.
this is one of the doubt and fear she's slaying
I,
now. So she just.
oh, this is me. This is me slaying that, right? Because I'm like, oh my god, am I gonna be able to talk about this here? But basically, the slayed out challenge is just an opportunity for us to slay out. Really, those areas in our lives where we know that God has called us to do more, or where we have found purpose, but somehow our minds or the enemy has told us that we're not relevant, or who are you to think you can do that, or you are thinking you don't have the qualification or the money or whatever it is you think you need. On the challenge, we're going through my book, actually the book I wrote called Slayed Out. So we're looking at it chapter by chapter and using the distilling the gems that are in that book to be able to come to a point where by the end of the 15-day challenge, you're in a position to either start birthing something new or resurrecting an old dream that you've left aside. And today is actually the last day to join us because we're on day 3 now, and it's intense, but it's good intense. So today is the last day to join if anyone wants to join us. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. So please join the challenge, and
I'll send you the
I'm
link
sure.
for that.
Yeah, she'll
That's
send the link. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Please like our page, share, get my book. For anyone out there you're going through grief or anything, just something to help you. Do that. So thank you so much, everyone. We do this twice a month. So watch out for the next person. The next person that we're bringing up is also another fantastic person. So praying that by the grace of God, we all meet, and the next time when we come together. So reach out to us, share, and just tell somebody, and just contact us, and just let's have a
Is it
chat if
possible
you
to
need.
type in your handle in the chat so that people
Yes,
can connect
yes,
with you? Yeah.
I have. I'll do that again. So,
Okay.
and if
Okay.
yeah, you can send it to people for on replay and all that, so that they could. So, it's been a lovely time, Detola. And it's been a lovely time for all our guests today and all everyone that's watched, that put in their question. That that been here today. It's so beautiful. Thank you so much. Until we meet next
Wow.
time. Oh, thank you
Thank
so much,
you. Thank
Detola.
you so
Everybody
much.
send your
Thank
love.
you.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. Thank you. We made it.
Yes, we
Bye.
did.
Bye.
Bye.